Anita Piteau was born on the 9th of March 1942 and was a resident of Maine, New York. She was an ambitious woman who left her home and family in 1967 to travel with friends to Whittier, Southern California. She had her own room there and was hoping to make it in Hollywood. She wanted to see where movies were made, and she kept in regular touch with her family by mail. In February of 1968, just 1 month prior to her turning 26 years of age, she told her mother in a letter that she was working as a waitress and would be returning home in a few months' time. That was the last time her family heard from her again. The family hired a private investigator to look for her, but no trace of her could be found. On the 14th of March that same year, 3 boys were playing on a farm in Huntington Beach when they made a horrifying discovery. They found the body of an unknown woman in a drainage ditch who had been assaulted, beaten, and had her neck slashed. It seemed as though she may have had her life taken only hours earlier and had been dragged to that location. She had brown hair, missing teeth, pierced ears, and brown eyes. As officers searched the area where she lay, investigators found a smoked cigarette butt. Among other evidence at the scene, there were purple pants, a red-stained floral blouse, a pair of muddy loafers, and a large inexpensive silver ring with a blue stone, all which were painstakingly preserved as an exhaustive search followed, including numerous interviews, but no suspects were found. A composite sketch of her was drawn and shared in hope someone would know her. Her body was buried in an unmarked grave in a Newport Beach cemetery. Police were unable to identify the body, and the case became cold. For decades, the fine haunted Huntington Beach Police Department, who refused to give up on identifying the Jane Doe and wanted to find the person responsible for the heinous act that had robbed their young woman of a lifetime of memories. The case was eventually solved through DNA and genealogy. In 2011, investigators received a lead regarding the identity of a woman, with a person coming forward saying that she may have known her. She was from New York and had an Italian last name and also had a son. In 2019, the DNA from the cigarette butt did not have a match to the CODIS system database. In June 2020, a former DNA project worker tracked down the Jane Doe's relatives using DNA genealogy techniques. Within a week, a relative in Maine was found. This relative then located his cousin's obituary, which listed her siblings and included Anita Piteau in it, who hadn't been seen in years. DNA from the scene identified the offender as Johnny Crisco. There were 4 brothers, 3 deceased in his family tree. He was found to be the primary suspect. Before that, he wasn't even on the police radar. It was believed that Johnny, who was 28 years old at the time, may have taken Anita's life after she accepted a ride from him. Johnny was born in Merced, California. He grew up in Arizona and had assaulted a woman before he was 17 and was arrested in Orange County in 1971. He joined the Army and spent his enlisted time as a paratrooper, making 15 jumps. He was dishonorably discharged from the Army for a pattern of unsettling anger issues, feeling unjustly treated, chronically resentful, immature and impulsive, and for failing a psych exam. He passed away in 2015 from throat cancer and was cremated in Washington State at the age of 71. Although he is no longer alive to face the consequences, it's provided Anita's family with closure. Anita is survived by 2 sisters, a brother, and many extended family members have been searching for her all these years. Both her parents passed away. Upon learning of her passing, the family was overwhelmed, thinking she had shunned them all these years. There was never a thought that her life had ended so abruptly. Her remains were brought back to Maine, and a memorial service was held for her in July of 2020.
On the morning of August 11th, 2003, a woman was bike riding through Riverfront Park in Kingsport, Tennessee, when she noticed a suspicious object in the Holston River. The object turned out to be a body in an advanced state of decomposition and was no longer recognizable. Forensic team experts determined that the white male had been in the river for 7 to 10 days. It was suspected his body floated to its discovery location from upstream, and that the unidentified man had drowned. He was estimated to have been between 40 and 80 years old. He was 6 feet tall, with mostly thinning, partially gray hair, and weighed about 180 pounds. He was wearing blue jeans, a black belt, black shoes, and a discolored white sleeveless button-up shirt with vertical blue and burgundy stripes, along with the white stained socks. The best clue that investigators had to identifying the man was a BB&T bank envelope found in his pocket, containing $267, but that wasn't enough. The remains were later forwarded to the University of Tennessee's Forensic Anthropology Department in Knoxville in 2004. They in turn provided detectives with a clay model version of the man, giving their best scientific estimate as to what he may have looked like. A more recent interpretation was revealed in 2018 by a forensic artist named Katiana Falsetti with Project Eden. Everyone deserves a name. The artwork was submitted to NamUs through its headquarters at the University of North Texas Center for Human Identification Forensic Services Unit, who in turn forwarded it to Kingsport detectives. Many leads were pursued, but the man's identity remained unknown until a citizen reached out to the Kingsport Police Department in June of 2020. Patty Williams Childress, a sharp-eyed citizen sleuth, spotted similarities between a NamUs missing persons report and the unidentified person entry for Kingsport John Doe on the same site. The case was solved after 17 years when a DNA test was completed. It revealed the identity of the man to be that of 64-year-old Jerry David Holbert, who was reported missing to the West Virginia Police Department on August 4, 2003. Jerry left his Charleston, West Virginia residence earlier that month and walked to a bus station with plans to visit a relative in Ohio. After he failed to arrive there, he was reported missing. At the time, he was suffering from dementia, and it was believed he became disoriented and mistakenly boarded the wrong bus. It was unknown how he ended up in the Holston River. The Kingsport Police Department provided, for comparison purposes, photos of the 2004 clay model forensic rendering, the 2018 artistic forensic rendering, and an actual photograph of Jerry Holbert.
On the 9th of March 1970, at around 3:30 p.m, 23-year-old mother of two and Denver resident, Betty Lee Jones, shared a house with her husband Robert Ray Jones of 9 days. They'd been arguing since they woke up, and it culminated with him leaving the home in his car. Betty flagged down a car in the street, which stopped, and she got into a blue sedan. It headed into a southerly direction, and she was never seen again. 2 workers from the Colorado Department of Transportation found her body the following morning down the side of an embankment just off the Colorado Highway. She'd been bound, assaulted, suffocated and shot. The offender wasn't identified, and the case was unsolved. That was until 2006, when the case was reopened and evidence recovered from Jones' body was submitted to the investigators. A male DNA profile was developed, but the suspect profile was not in the CODIS database. DNA was obtained from 6 potential suspects, which included a husband, through personal items or direct swabbing. Robert Jones died in the year 2000, so DNA was obtained from his parents. None of the potential suspects were a match to the suspect's DNA. In the year 2019, the suspect's DNA was submitted to a private lab, Bode Technologies. A profile was developed where they worked with other agencies to use forensic genealogy to develop a family tree. They identified a woman seen in a 1957 Denver directory as a possible relative of the suspect, but no other identifying information was found. The forensic investigators successfully identified the woman, her husband, and her 2 sons, who would have been in their 20s at the time of the offence. They also lived in Denver at the time. One son was still living, but the other passed away in 1977. The living son was interviewed, and DNA swabs were taken. He told authorities about his estranged 3rd brother. His name was Paul. He wasn't sure whether he was alive or not. The living brother's DNA profile was compared to the suspect's DNA and came back as closely related to the suspect. The missing brother identified as Paul Leroy Martin, passed away in June 2019 with no identified next of kin, except for his living brother. He was buried in Fort Logan National Cemetery. His body was exhumed on the 8th of April 2020, and his DNA was collected. The next day, the sample was sent to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation lab, where a profile was developed. The profile from Martin was compared to the suspect's DNA. On the 24th of April 2020, the Boulder County Sheriff's Office was notified that the sample collected from Betty Jones' body matched the sample from Martin. Martin had no known links to Betty Jones, and a close family member said that Martin was not familiar to her, and she did not recall Betty dating anyone by that name. It was determined on the 26th of May 2020 that based on the evidence and the DNA analysis of the investigation, that Paul Martin would have been found guilty of taking Betty's life, ending a 5-decade-old cold case.